Good day. In this day, I'd like to share with you 3 tips on how to pass Amazon interviews. And the first one refers to the questions you're going to get asked during these interviews. And it's no secret that it's pretty easy to find the types of questions you might get asked in Amazon interviews and even link them to their leadership principles. Now, what not many of you know, and I'm doing this for over 5 years, is that knowing the questions in advance is less efficient way to prep, that is to prep on the types of questions you might get asked, simply because behavioral interviews are not technical interviews. Okay, in a technical interview, if you know the question in advance, you will know what to answer it. In a behavioral interview, what's valuable is to understand why the question gets asked. Okay, so in Amazon terms, if you want, spotting the leadership principle from the question you're asked in a job interview is far more valuable than focusing on being able to answer any possible question that's thrown at you, right? The second tip I'd like to share about you, also with respect to the leadership principle, is that preparing your Amazon interview based on the leadership principles is dangerous business. And the reason why I'm saying this is because there's too many of these leadership principles. They started with 12, now they have 16. They constantly add questions. Some departments invent questions. Bar raisers will come up with new questions all the time. So long story short, it's a super time-intensive process if you want to prepare on all those leadership principles. Yes, you can eliminate some, but still, in my experience of selling thousands of training programs for Amazon interviews, I can tell you very few people are able to completely prepare for this. Okay, so what works then when it comes to preparing Amazon's interviews? Well, what works is to focus on some key behaviors that are core to your role, and focusing, have amazing stories on those specific behaviors. You can call them principles, but there's a lot of redundancy between those principles. You could oversimplify them, right? If you go to my website, I have a simplified model of behavioral competencies. It's for free, and you can decide for yourself, whether you take this shortcut or not. But what you should keep in mind is that Amazon, as the one of the most successful commercial entities on earth, not only understand their customers, but also the candidates applying to their job interviews. So these behavioral interviews and these leadership principles, are a bit more comprehensive than most candidates realize. Okay, so the fix here would be to find the right balance between preparing the story bank that you have based on some key behaviors and role playing as much as possible, because role playing will determine how good you are at linking your stories with the leadership principles, as well as understanding on whether you have sufficient stories going for your job interview. After having coached so many Amazonians going into and out of Amazon, I can tell you that it's very common for senior roles not to have prepared on the leadership principles when they first applied to Amazon, right? And the last thing I wanted to share with you here is with respect to your actual interview. Not everyone, unfortunately, will pass their Amazon interview. And what happens is that in some cases, candidates will not understand why they have failed them. Okay, so in my experience, most of the people I work with did not pass it from the first try. So they tried first, and they, eventually reached out to me and so on. What I want you to keep in mind is, if you have an Amazon interview, try to record it. Okay, because recording it will ensure that you will understand precisely how your performance evolved. Okay, or if you don't understand how it evolved, maybe you have an optimism bias, you think it went well when in fact it didn't, you can ask someone else to listen to what you said during that job interview and maybe guide you, as to where you might improve, right? So these Amazon interviews are a quite unique experience, right? So it's worth considering recording them for your future reference and in order to improve your interviewing skills. So I hope you found this useful, and thank you very much for watching.